in dealing with pain is you release that energy that that thing has that you're holding inside, and that energy is negative energy, and you can release it.
And it can move you into a space that you never even knew about before, dreamed about, kind of like in this situation with the school that
Yeah.
who would have thought you would have been teaching in a school for the deaf, right?
Right.
Before that. So,
It was
but
not
because you
something
recognize
that ever,
that.
ever occurred to me to do. It was not something I said, oh yes, I'd like to deal with, special needs kids.
Right.
No, this was
Right.
just, popped up in my face one day.
Right. And then there was that experience, and now your experience now is completely different from that. So,
Yeah.
how you were talking about the path, just listening to your heart, following that path, and it's going to lead you to these different situations that you really can't project
No,
and say
I'll
that
tell you a
in
story.
X amount of years I'll be here at this point, because you might not know where you end up. Yeah.
Not at all. I always liked playing around with wood and tools, and whatever house we moved into, I always would build a workbench in the basement. But I didn't know what I was doing. I was just, cob stuck together, and I was totally happy with that. Then, when I was close to 40. I got divorced. I didn't know. Mary and I, we spent all our time with plants. And we created these incredible gardens and stuff, but when we split up, didn't want to do that. I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. I thought maybe I'd even move to another town. And eventually, I thought, well, I kind of like this town. I started thinking about other places I'd go, and I thought, well, it would be someplace just like Ithaca. So why go anywhere? And I was kind of at a loss what I was going to do. I had done, I had a little tree work business. I could, do that, or, and sometimes, I'd be home and I would want to just get out, just to be around people. So one night I went to the library, which I rarely did. And I walked over to the magazine section to look for a magazine. And I found this magazine called Fine Woodworking. I'd never heard of this magazine. And in the 30 years that they've been publishing, there was one issue where they listed all the woodworking furniture making schools in the country.
Wow.
And I happened to pick up that issue. It was the one that was on display. And I looked under New York, of course, and there was a place, a woodworking school, that had just started a couple of years previous in Genoa. And I thought, well, that's interesting. I've always wanted to, do that. It'd be great. And so I drove up to Genoa, and I looked around. There was only one place there that could possibly house, and it was an old school building. And I went in, and I said, I'm looking for this, the Genoa furniture maker. He says, you're in it. You want to come meet Tim, the director? And I said, yeah, and I signed up for the next fall. And, Tim showed me the gallery of the student work, and I said, I've always wanted to do work like this, and I never knew how. I would love to come to this school. And this was just fate. I had rarely went to the library. Picked up a magazine there. I never heard of Fine Woodworking, and the one issue in 30 years. And, well, that changed my life forever. I'm still doing it.
And as you tell this, I mean, people listening can't see your body language, but you're just beaming. You have this huge smile on your face as you talk about this. And when you were talking about your situation when you were in your 20s, your body language was completely different. You weren't smiling when you were talking about that. And how did it feel for you when you were then connected with and surrounded by other people who were doing this kind of work that they loved. Did you feel like that fueled you and you said, wow, these people are doing this and this is how they're making a living? I mean, was that a different twist on it for you to be kind of in that community of people who were doing something similar?
Um, it helped to be, in a class with a bunch of other people because we, would feed off of each other and help each other. And it was, this is just an aside, but it was interesting to see they would have these student projects. We'd pick a project and we'd make a piece of furniture. But you could tell from the design of the piece who made it, who came up with that design, because they were attached to their personalities. It was pretty incredible. But mostly, I think I was just happy learning to use these tools correctly and how to, all the different techniques, the joinery, how to design a piece of furniture the right way, and all that sort of thing, and being excited by it because it's something I never knew how to do, but always just leaned in that direction. I would bang together 2x4s basically, and maybe do lap joints. That was as far as I could. So I was excited about that, and it was a 2-year program, and after 1 year, some of the people who were teaching there, or had studio space there, did not want to stay there, and they wanted to find another place to work. And I figured, well, it cost me $6,000 to go there for a year, and it's going to cost me another $6,000 to go the next year. And so instead, I finished building this shop, and they rented space for me. So all the difference in the world between paying and being paid.
Right.
And since they were, very advanced in their skills, I learned from these guys instead of going to school.
Right.
And got paid for the experience.
Right.
And that's how I built this shop, because I had 3 or 4 people here paying me rent every month.
Yeah.
And every time I'd get a slug of money, I'd go out and buy another piece of equipment.
Right.
So
here
who
we
knew?
sit in your studio now.
Yeah.
So by taking that step and taking the class, and then you thought, okay, well, what resources do I have now? Well, I have space, right? You had this space where you could build the shop, and hey, I can rent to you guys, and you can come in, and then
Yeah.
you're surrounded with all of their creative energy
Yeah.
and what they're doing. And like you said, you continue to learn from them, make money, and then have money to
Yeah.
buy the equipment you needed to
And I didn't know
do
that
what you
was
were
going to
doing.
happen. When I went to that school, I thought, okay, I'll take a 2-year program. I wasn't thinking about what the next step would
Right,
be.
right.
But because I took that step, it led to another step. Because I went to the library, it led to discovering this school.
Yeah,
These steps just presented themselves. They were nothing that I predicted or even thought about, this is what I'd like to do.
right.
It just presented itself because I put myself in a position where something like that could present itself.
And you probably weren't making these beautiful salt and pepper shakers back then when you
No.
first started either, right? That now that you have your space set up and you have your equipment and you connect with other people and you're listening to your inspiration, that you probably never know what your next project is going to be.
No, and the thing is, because I do this work, I then applied, I was asked to apply at Handwork, this craft co-op. Well, that wouldn't have happened had I not gone to the library way back when.
Right, right.
And that wouldn't have happened had I not left the situation I was in when I was in my 20s
Right,
and hated.
right.
you know, there were a lot of steps along
Right.
the way that led to that. And I
Yeah.
enjoy being in the co-op, and I've met people there that I really like,
Mm-hmm.
and I like being part of that enterprise,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and the energy that I get from that, and that I give to that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I never thought about, oh, I'm going to go to this school and join a craft co-op.
Right.
No, I started making nice stuff, and then people said, oh, you make nice stuff, you'll come join the co-op. So I
Right.
did.
Right.
And, you know,
Yep.
so who knew?
Right. I kind of think of it when you look back in that sense from where you currently are and you trace your steps back, you trace that path back. It almost to me sometimes feels like looking at a constellation. That in retrospect, you can see how all the stars are lined up. You can see whatever shape it took. And of course it happened that way because I listened to this. But when you were only saw that first star and you didn't know the next star you were hopping to,
Right.
you had no idea what form it would take or what shape it would take. But I think that's always fun in retrospect to look back and
Yeah.
trace all of those
I just,
steps and
you
see.
say, of course, this is where I wound up, because that's who I am.
Right,
You know, I didn't
Yeah.
know who I was
right.
when I was my 20s.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but
Yeah.
through all these steps, I discovered.
Yeah.
You know, when my marriage broke up, number three, uh, I didn't know what would happen, and I was kind of thinking that, oh, you know, I'm too old to get another relationship, and okay, I'm resigned, I'll go live my life alone, and I'll, you know, that has its benefits as well as it costs. But that opened the way to reconnect with Patrice, who, you know, I probably should have married back then, you know, because we were tight back then.
Mm-hmm.
And I went and married the wrong person. So who knew? Why? And then I look back and say, geez, why were you so upset and so frightened about your future? This was right around the corner, and it's the best thing the best partner I've ever had.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That all of those steps led to this, like you said, where you are now, and
Yeah,
listening to that.
and now I'm doing what I want to do. I've been in this place for over 30 years, and I'm bonded with my land here, and it's, you know, a beautiful place, and I'm with the person that, you know, the best partner I've ever had. Got this dog that we both love, and you know, life is great.
Excellent.
I have no complaints. Uh, I feel I'm doing what I'm destined to do, being with the person I was destined to be with. We have the same birthday.
Wow, I didn't know
mean,
that.
Basically, I was born on March 4th. She was born March 5th.
Wow.
You know? There's nothing that I would change, and I feel this is what I've been looking. You know, all the stars are aligned for the first time in my life, and
Kind of all the pieces are now assembled, all the pieces are together.
Yeah.
And it takes a piece at a time, right? You can't just
oh yeah,
all of a sudden assemble the puzzle all at
No.
once. That it's this piece and this piece, and maybe this piece you have to turn it or it doesn't fit, and you have to throw it out and replace it with something else. But
yeah. And it's
yeah.
a journey. It's a journey. But unless you're self-actualized, self-motivated, and you can't get there. You know, like they say in Maine, you know, you can't get there from here.
Yeah.
you can't. You know, you've got to get in touch with who you are and take that journey of self-discovery and fulfillment. Because otherwise, you're kind of lost and destined to stay lost.
All right. Well, thanks, Stephen.